Nigeria, by extension, Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement lives a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Imagine serving your country, then being told you cannot leave until 15 long years are up. This was the reality of Flight Lieutenant J.A. Akerele until the court stepped in. And in a ruling described as historic, the National Industrial Court has struck down the military's mandatory 15-year service rule, affirming that officers, like every Nigerian, have the right to walk away from public service. What's your take on this conversation? Does this empower our soldiers or weaken military discipline? It's another episode on your favorite primetime show, Ways. My name is Choma Kalu, and tonight our conversation centers on the right to resign, a turning point for military discipline and reform. Now, remember, Ways is all about you, as you are the why in Ways. So be a part of the conversation every single day and add your voice to the discussions. Head on to YouTube now and search us up on Official Upgrade TV. Hit the subscribe button, like, share, and invite your friends to join the show now. When I open the phone lines, I'd really love to hear your say on this topic. And as always, please ponder on the quote for the day. And this is from Justice Emmanuel Subilemi. Said, compulsory service without the option of resignation amounts to modern-day slavery under the guise of national service. Now, we're going to come back to this much later, but before then, we'll go on a short break. And when I come back, I'll take you through my news interest for the day. Don't go away.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
You're welcome back, and you're still watching Ways. Now, this is time for me to take you through my news interest for the day. And the first news I have by our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He said, I have to create state police. We will defeat insecurity. I have to create state police. We will defeat insecurity. And as you know, this conversation has been ongoing for a while. So President Bola Tinubu says the creation of decentralized police force have become inevitable. Tinubu spoke on Tuesday when he received a delegation of prominent citizens from Katsina, led by Diko Rada, the state's governor, at the presidential villa in Abuja. The president also directed security agencies to review their operations in Katsina following a surge in banditry in the state. He said that the federal government would deploy advanced military hardware and surveillance gadgets in the state. The president said the federal government is considering the upgrade of forest guards recently deployed in Katsina and declared that the security challenges confronting the country are not insurmountable. He also asked for daily feedbacks on the security operations in the state and said, the security challenges that we are facing are insurmountable. Yes, we have porous borders. We inherited weaknesses that could have been addressed earlier. It is a challenge that we must fix, and we are facing it. This is coming from our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And like I said, the conversation of state policing has been on for a while. So if he's finally caving in to having state police, I think it's a good development. Moving on, my second story of interest. NECA says states have no excuse not to pay beyond 70,000 naira minimum wage. Now, they said, following the rising cost of living in the country and its impact on the people, as well as the increase in the federal allocations to all tiers of government, the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA, has said state governments had no excuse not to pay civil servants above 70,000 minimum wage. The Director General of NECA, Adewale Smart Oyerinde, who stated this in an interview yesterday, said the increased inflow of revenue from the Federation account had reduced the arguments of some states about their inability to pay. Now, recall that in July 2024, the president signed the minimum wage bill into law, ending months of deliberations between the government authorities, labor unions, and the private sector. He signed it at the State House in Abuja, days after the National Assembly passed the Minimum Wage Act 2019 to increase the national minimum wage from 30,000 to 70,000. Now, the DG of NECA further said any measure aimed at reducing the pain of workers as key drivers of the economy would boost their productivity. I think I quite agree with what this DG of NECA is saying, talking about states having no excuse to pay beyond 70,000, because come to think of it, right, there are locations. And considering the state of the nation, the cost of living, I really believe civil servants deserve more than that 70,000. Now, even the 70,000 naira that we are asking them to get paid, some people are still struggling. But kudos to Imo State Governor. Like we saw a couple of days ago, he increased from 70 to 104. And like I said, I really commended that move because everything else is increasing in this country apart from the salary. And it's really not fair on the families involved. So yes, I think just beyond paying 70,000 naira, I think most states should emulate what Governor Uzodinma has done, because it's going to help the citizens of the state. And finally, on my news interest for the day, I know a lot of Nigerian workers will be excited about this one. It says FG declares Friday public holiday for Eid al-Mawlid. Now, the federal government has declared Friday, September 5th, 2025, as a public holiday to mark this year's Eid al-Mawlid, the celebration of the birth of Prophet Muhammad. The statement was issued on Wednesday by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Interior, Dr. Magdalena Jani, on behalf of the Minister of Interior, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo. The government congratulated Muslims across the country and in diaspora on the occasion, urging them to emulate the Prophet's virtues of peace, love, humility, tolerance, and compassion. The statement also encouraged Nigerians of all faiths to use the celebration to pray for peace, security, and stability in the country, while supporting government's efforts to strengthen national unity and foster development. The government also appealed to citizens to remain law-abiding and security-conscious while supporting its policies aimed at promoting national unity and sustainable development. I mean, I personally, my personal opinion is that we have too many public holidays in Nigeria. Let's be realistic. Don't we want to work? We're not lazy people, right? But then everybody would seize an opportunity to just relax and do nothing at home. So yes, the government is telling us just the way we celebrate other occasions, we're celebrating the birth of Prophet Muhammad, and this is peculiar for the Muslim community. So everybody, you can take Friday off. I don't know if that applies to us, but essential workers, I'm really sorry this doesn't apply. Anyway, that's all the news I have that caught my eye today. I'm going to go on a short break, and when I come back, we'll dive right into our topic of interest tonight. Stay with us.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Thank you for staying tuned. And if you just joined in, tonight's discussion centers on the right to resign, a turning point for military discipline and reform. And please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation by sending us an SMS or WhatsApp to us at number 08180384663. And my phone lines are open now. Please call me on 070-2500-7749 and 0701-4242-420. Let's hear what you have to say. And in the conversation tonight, in a landmark ruling, the National Industrial Court has struck down the military's 15-year mandatory service rule. For years, officers who wanted to resign found themselves trapped, unable to leave until completing a decade and a half in uniform. Now the court says that practice violates Constitution, affirming that military personnel, like every public servant in Nigeria, have the right to resign. Now, what does this mean for discipline in the armed forces? And is it time, do you think it's time to rethink the terms of military service altogether? Now, to help us unpack the implications of this ruling and what it could mean for reform, I'm now joined by Comrade Dr. Awal Abdullahi Aliyu, spokesperson of the Military of Defense Ministerial Standing Committee on Military Veterans Welfare. We also have a human rights lawyer, Barrister Justice Uwebu, and finally, we have Comrade Amechi Asubuni, former Deputy President of NLC and Industrial and Labor Relations expert. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me tonight. Please confirm you can hear me.
Very clear. I can hear you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I mean, I look forward to all the insights you guys have to share on this particular topic. Firstly, I think I want to start with Comrade Aliyu. Sir, please confirm you can hear me.
I can hear you very well.
Beautiful. Thank you. So I think the first thing I want to, well, ask any of you. Okay, I want to start with the human rights lawyer. What is the legal significance of the court voiding the 15-year mandatory rule of the military service?
Well, just like the wise man there, who is the agitator. That is the. Can you? I'm sure you can hear me.
Very well.
Okay, yes, just like the wise man there has given his verdict, is a very sound judgment. There's no two ways about it, because if you go through the Constitution, the 1999 Constitution as it is, simplicity, there is nowhere it was provided that you don't have the right to choose whatever you want to do at any point in time, provided what you're doing is legal. So, in fact, it is a sound judgment, because oftentimes security agents and some other outfits in Nigeria had tried to violate the rights of citizens for one reason or the other. So, for me and for us in the human rights angle, is a very sound judgment.
You, sir. I want to ask Comrade Aliyu, right? You've been in the military. What was the brain box behind this 15-year mandatory rule? I mean, what, in clear terms now, what was the idea behind it?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I think the simple notion is, first, there's what we call the Armed Forces Act. The Armed Forces Act initially provide for first mandatory 5 years military service. 5 years military service. Any other subsequent years is contractual. You have the right as a military man after 5 years of service to voluntarily right to leave any of the tri-service, that is the armed forces, either the Army, the Air Force, or the Navy. So I will impliedly say that it is, while you are seeing it as a landmark judgment, in real sense, it has been in practice in the armed forces of Nigeria. Nobody restricts any member of the armed forces from resigning from his military service at any given point in time. What the Act says, if you want to be pensionable, quote that and unquote, if you want to be pensionable, then you must serve the mandatory 15 years before you can be due for pension. But even at that, during the administration of President Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, he brought down the 15 years mandatory service to 10 years, which now voluntarily you are entitled to pension for life till the day one dies. So you see, there was never a time the armed forces says you cannot resign. The only thing is, I repeat, you can resign even after serving two that is called mandatory. If you go through the military training, it is expected that in the terms and conditions of service, you will sign for 5 years. Then after 5 years, you are entitled to another 5 years, entitled to another 5 years, to another 5 years until it gets to 35 years. So the first 5 years are the mandatory one, while the remaining 30 years of 30 years break down into 555 are contractual. You can continue to sign another contract, renewing your contract of service in the armed forces. This is there, but it is not being open. It is not public. It is only within the military circle that this thing is known. But also, like I said, for you to be pensionable, you have to serve 15 years, but Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, General, former president, reduced it to 10 years. And since the administration of IBB, it has been 10 years, no longer 15 years. So I don't see this judgment of the industrial court as any landmark judgment as it is being celebrated. It has been there already. You can serve 5 years and voluntarily retire. You can serve 7 years and voluntarily. You can serve 15 years. You can serve 12 years. You can serve 2 years and leave. But the only thing is, you may not be pensionable until before now it is 15, but from Babangida's era, 10 years. So it is there. You can leave anytime you want to leave after the training, but at least you are signing for the first 5 years. Those ones is called mandatory years of service in the armed forces after your training, which after that, subsequent ones, you'll be signing contract for 5 years. But like I said, it is not open to public, and people never cared to go through the terms and conditions of service, the Armed Forces Act, to really know what are the terms and conditions of service, how it goes, or what you do, what are the do's and what are the don'ts. Like my brother, the human rights lawyer, most possibly he never find it worthy, or he never really maybe his concentration was never there to really try to find out what is really the terms and conditions of service of the army or the armed forces. What is the Armed Forces Act really saying? Unless if the judgment is saying that after serving the armed forces, at whatever year you decide to leave, you are entitled to pension, even if you serve 1 year or 2 years or 5 years or 7 years, unless if that is what we are talking about. But if that is not what we are talking about, then IBB has made it 10 years. After you serve for 10 years, you retire, you are entitled to pension for life. At whatever rank you leave, you are entitled to your pension. A lot of our veterans, military veterans, did not serve the 35 years or 30 years. A very good number serve only 10 years, most especially from the time IBB made it that 10 years is due for service.
Okay.
That is it.
All right. So in this case now, this man, Akerele, right? Why was he? I'm sure he understood the requirements before joining, right? And you said everybody can leave whenever, but then it's just the being pensionable that's the issue. So why did the Chief of Air Staff refuse him resigning in this particular case? If, I mean, resigning is open to anybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me make you understand one thing now. For example, the armed forces, you join the armed forces, maybe as an officer. You went through the Nigerian Defense Academy, spent the number of years you needed to spend. Then after that, money has been put on you. Nigerian revenue earners money, Nigerian sweat, because that is what is being used to train the soldier man. That is what is used to train, to pay him his salary. That is what is used to send him on different courses, both local and international courses. Then you were in this in the armed forces. After your training, you serve your 5 mandatory years. Then the armed forces further send you for further training that a lot of money is put into it, and the expertise that you got out of that training, either locally or internationally, you needed to put it into practice. Then immediately you went, go for that courses. For example, there are officers, as I speak to you now, that are having one course or the other. Some are doing their master's degrees, some are doing their PhDs, and the likes of them. And those ones are being sponsored by the armed forces. And they are sponsored internationally, not locally. Then you just went. So after that course, some of them will even abscond, will refuse to come back, or those that return and will now return and begin to write that they want to leave immediately they are finishing that course. And that the armed forces feel it is quite unfair for you to, after taking the country's funds, from the people's sweat, taking money from the taxpayers, because this money that goes to the services is from the taxpayers' money. Then after taking the taxpayers' money for the armed forces to train you specifically on a special section of a particular course that will be useful to the armed forces to execute its daily activities in terms of security of lives and property, then you are just coming back and you are writing that you are resigning. That is a situation where the armed forces will tell you, no, it is not possible. At least you must post another extra 3 years after returning from whatever course or whatever training you attend, that a lot of money has been spent on you, and then you, not only the allowances that is given to you, but where you are going for the training, money is being paid for you to be trained. Then after that, you are just returning because you have earned the certificate, you have earned the knowledge, and you are now saying that you are leaving the job immediately. You are writing to say you want to voluntarily leave. Then the armed forces will tell you, no, you have to pay the taxpayers' money that was used to train you. You have to put that knowledge into practice in the armed forces for at least 3 years before you can be allowed to voluntarily retire. That, in most cases, is what is happening. Officers look for opportunity to go for courses, international courses. A lot of money is being spent on them, and they are returning to say, we are no longer interested in the job we are living. The armed forces will not allow that.
All right. I'm so glad I have you on this call. But I want to take this to the labor aspect. Comrade Amechi, I want to ask you, right, looking at the labor rights, what does this mean for workers in Nigeria on the broader scale? This 15-year rule now that has been ruled out by the court, what does it mean for Nigerian workers?
Thank you very much. Listening to my brother also, everything for me is a lesson without minding the intention and the individual's understanding. It's an achievement. And it does not matter the benefit that comes with it. Restriction is an hindrance to human rights. And whatever form, however you place it, it undermines the fundamental right and the freedom of workers. One thing is to get access to employment. Another thing is to have the choice and right to remain or leave. People gain employment and they can leave any time they want. And I believe my brother has established that is allowed in code, because we have also had relatives and friends that underwent training, and at a point in time, they had no room to leave. And if you must leave, it will be recorded as though you didn't serve. That we consider not right in democracy. The court to give judgment, everything needed to defend before the judgment was given in this regard. So I may not just take
are you still there? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, just I think it's a network glitch.
Or landmark.
We can hear him from here.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. So from me, I just believe by the grace of God that the verdict, the judgment given in this regard is an assurance that wherever you find yourself, even in essential service, there is still freedom for you. There is still protection, because social protection is one thing that we lack for the military sector, and that is a threat to human rights. People resign, there is already a condition. There's already a condition to discourage your right to resign. There's a condition to impose service on people that are not willing to continue. It brings threat to the society. It brings threat to your colleagues, because at a point in service, when you are not interested in that job, and the condition in that terms of your employment is compelling you to continue, it means you are not working intentionally. There's no motivation around your service. And situations like that, the individual is prone to make mistakes. And when officers are zoned to different operations, people that are on a particular ground or field of operation, it's expected that they should perform their right. But whereby you have individual leading a particular troop, and that person is already interested in resignation, but is being forced to the battlefield, he will lose focus even from the training you said you have spent money on. So passion has its own skill of transformation. When people lack passion in the field of operation, they are bound to make mistakes, and their mistake can be expensive for Nigeria, which is more than the money we spend. Because when you lose, when one weakness of an officer can indeed impose threat to the entire society. So I believe this judgment is an encouragement, and I believe however it's going to be implemented, the understanding is what matters here. Because I tell you, before now, people are not allowed to take decision in military. And these are the same workforce that don't have room to negotiate their salary. So when you take up this service, you see at a point that the welfare is not improved. Workers are agitated. They don't know who will speak for them. Because if we talk about voicelessness, in the power of the military, they lack voice to negotiate. They lack voice to defend their own welfare. And as such, this type of law will compel federal government to increase the welfare of workers at will without waiting for agitation. Otherwise, you will see a massive resignation of officers owing to the fact that the pay, the welfare is poor. And so me, I believe that this judgment is going to encourage and improve welfare for these categories of workers. It's going to allow people to believe in themselves that I am the one doing the job because I want to, not forced to.
Okay, great. Thank you for your insights. I'm coming to you, Barrister, right? What does this judgment mean constitutionally for every Nigerian? I mean, to right to the freedom of employment, freedom to choice of employment now. What does the judgment mean for every Nigerian constitutionally? Sir, you're muted, please. Did you hear me? You're still muted.
Yeah, can you hear me very well?
Yes, I can now. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. You see, and let us be holistic about the whole thing. Just like my brother and friend said last time when he was talking, that maybe I did not know the sections of the police, of the military act and the rest. Simplicity is the ground norm, which everybody must obey. Any other law is an enabling law. And that is why the Constitution says that any law that runs in consistency with the Constitution.
Barrister, are you still with us? Hello, Barrister. All right, while we wait for him to reconnect, right, I'm going to come back to you, Comrade Aliyu. This ruling, and I must commend the insights you're bringing, the angles you're bringing into this conversation. But with this ruling now, should Nigeria rethink how it recruits and train, its personnel, right? I mean, the military now. With this rule, are we supposed to rethink the laid down rules now on recruiting, training, and even retaining the personnel in the military?
With that, even though the armed forces have its act and it has the procedures, planned procedures, administrative procedures of recruitment, training, retraining courses, promotions, retirement, different types of retirement, either voluntary retirement, compulsory retirement, medically boarded, that is those that are retired on medical grounds, or those that read the mandate 3 years of 35 years that needed to retire, or those that age on rank and things like that. If your age has outdated the rank you are wearing and you did not get the next promotion after first, second, and the third attempt as given by the armed forces for the officers, and then for the soldiers, the non-commissioned officers now, those ones is open. Even at that one, you have five years of between one promotion to another, and even at that, you have to go to various courses, pass through a lot of rigorous trainings, interviews, testings, and what have you before you can be due for promotion. So you see, there's a procedures of recruitment. There are terms and conditions within which a person will be recruited into the armed forces for his services. But that notwithstanding, with the judgment now, because life is dynamic and everything is evolving on a daily basis. The act itself of the armed forces is subject to review from time to time so that it can go along with the modern trend of life and the way administrative leadership and governance is happening, just like not only in Nigeria, but the world over. So it is a dynamic thing. The only thing that is dynamic in life is change, and everything is evolving, like I said. So it is in order that the armed forces itself will look inward and begin to review some of the laws that it has, to either upgrade some of the laws or even expel some of the laws in the Armed Forces Act that will suit the modern day armed forces and military. So that it is in order. And touching a little to my brother, the barrister, maybe I misrepresent what I was trying to say. I was not trying to say that he did not know the act. I said maybe he did not take interest in taking time to study the act, since he may not have any reason to do that. That is not to say that he does not know the law, he does not know the Constitution. Of course, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria supersedes any other law. But then also, within every service, it's just like a civil service rule, if you like. We have the Constitution, and it is from the Constitution, I believe, that you establish any other law or a bylaw, so to say, if that is what we're going to call it. So you have the civil service rule, just like the armed forces have the Armed Forces Act. So it is in order, perfectly in order, for the armed forces itself to continue to review its act and terms of condition of service from time to time, like I said, so that it can be in tandem with the world standard and also with the modern trend of military soldiering, something like that.
Thank you, comrade. We're going to go on a short break, and when we return, we continue from where we stopped. Don't go away. Welcome back. We're still having the conversation centered on the 15-year service rule on the military's end that was ruled out by the courts just yesterday. And I have with me Comrade Aliyu from the military end. I have a barrister, a human rights lawyer with us to, explain the tenets of the law. And I have NLC's representative to tell us what this means for Nigerian workers. Thank you, gentlemen, for still being here. Thank you, Barrister. I lost you at some point, but thank God you're back. I was asking you, right, what does this judgment mean? How does it strengthen the constitutional right of every Nigerian to freedom of choice of employment?
Yes, you see, that's actually what I was trying to explain. You see, the truth of the matter is this, and let's tell ourselves the truth. Fortunately or unfortunately, let me put it this way. At the time, Nigeria seems to be towing the line of military rule in a democratic setup. And that is why I keep on telling people that what I see us practicing most of this time is what I call quasi-democracy. Because if we say we're practicing democracy, the rule of law must be key. And just like the military in their usual way most times, they feel that we're still in the military rule. No, the Constitution is supreme. There's no two ways about it. That is why this judgment becomes a landmark judgment. And it has gone a long way, or it will go a long way to even give other sectors, the leverage to begin to implement their right and always ask for their right at any point in time. The rights of citizens are always being breached by especially the security agents and all the rest. It's so unfortunate in this country. But I thank God for the judge having the courage to give this kind of judgment. Because one thing we lack in this country today is most of the judges do not have the courage to give judgments that will impute or that will not be beneficial to the government or whatever. But I love this judgment because a lot of things is going to come out from it. It's not only in the military. There are other sectors where something is happening and people don't do anything about it. And when you try to talk, they intimidate you one way or the other. So this judgment, as far as I'm concerned, is going to go a long way in order to make sure that our democracy stands the way it should be.
I'm moving back to you. Comrade Amechi. Now, do you see this case, setting precedent for unions, to take up issues where institutional rules clash with workers' constitutional rights?
Definitely, every judgment to the worker means a platform for improvement. And whether we like it or not, the judgment is going to expose hidden conditions that are anti-people, conditions that are anti-democracy, conditions that negate freedom, both for female and male. So each time we see judgment of this nature, it applies beyond the very institution that have taken this matter up. So I am very sure that career path is necessary when it comes to industrial relation. Where people find passion, there they give their best. So this judgment, the implication is vast. And as we progress, it will unfold.
All right. Comrade Aliyu, I'm coming back to you, sir. Right. So do you believe now that discipline, do you believe discipline in the armed forces can survive without legally binding minimum years of service?
Well, actually, that is going to be a very serious issue. To be honest with you, the armed forces work with discipline. The armed forces work with command and control. Yes. And then where there is no discipline, that means there is no armed forces. The Nigerian armed forces or the armed forces the world over is the most disciplined organization. That is where you work with instruction. That is where you work under command. That is where you do exactly as you are instructed. It is not that you don't have your own opinion, but then your opinion, you can express it at a place where it is called DOBA, where the commander of a particular unit, and that is done in every unit under the armed forces, where the commanding officer will call all the troops, sit with them, ask them of his command, and request that they express their feelings openly. That is the only day that a member of the armed forces is given the opportunity to express himself based on the wants and the needs, where he saw that there's a problem, and also offer advice on the best way he thinks the command can be better. You see, and that is done within the rules guiding the armed forces. So where there is no constraint for service, where there is issue that affect discipline of the armed forces, believe me, is going to be an issue, because if there's no discipline, then it means there's no armed forces. It's just like in the law. You hear this one called my Linus Senior. A junior lawyer knows that his senior is his senior, and he afford him that respect and that regard as his senior. I think the lawyers are second to the armed forces when it comes to discipline and respect for seniority and constituted authority. So where you diminish that trend of having that respect, having that regard, having that discipline, it means there's no armed forces, because it is an institution that work with command and control, that work with specific instructions that is being not dished out by an individual, but sitting within the leadership of the institution, within a unit of command, discuss, agree, and then come a thing that will be favorable based on the doctrine that you work. So not do anything that will undermine discipline in the armed forces, because that will spell doom in the country, where there is no respect for constituted authority, where there's no respect for seniority, where there's no discipline by giving instruction and the instruction is carried out to the letter. Then there is going to be chaos, and then where the armed forces have where you have issue with discipline in the armed forces, you know what it means.
All right, coming back to you, Barrister, what's your take on this particular question? Can discipline?
Well, the truth about it is, let me Yeah. Let me say this simplicity. The problem we have in this country, especially in Nigeria, is what I call lack of sincerity of purpose. Let me tell you the truth. If there is rule of law, there will be discipline. Rule of law is the father of everything. There's no two ways about it. Oh, okay, borrow a leave like America. American soldiers, I wouldn't say they are better than us, but at least we are learning from them or we are borrowing from them. But the military in the United States will do everything possible to work in tandem with the rights of their citizens and the rights of the serving officers without, having to breach anybody's right. And that is called rule of law. In any country where the rule of law is operational, there will be discipline, there will be respect, there will be everything. So let us not misquote this issue of discipline, taking orders, and all the rest. Once you treat people equal, and you make people to understand that they have right to certain things, and you respect their rights, there will be discipline in that place. There's no two ways about it.
Great, thank you very much. I think I'm going to just do a quick run, one question for each one of you before we go. For our human NLC representative now, right? In your view, what is the bigger lesson this rule teaches about governance and institution in Nigeria?
Yes, in as much as we work with my time, I would rather make impute on the discipline to say that we shouldn't regard intimidation to constitute discipline. We have seen military personnel who, after leaving their duty, they find it difficult to associate with civilians in a civil manner. They still bring the doctrine of this imposed power, this authority of control, whereas they forget that in negotiation is give and take. We have seen issues between community and oil company in the Niger Delta, where they have sent military to intervene, and rather than making peace, they compel community to allow company to work. They still believe that community representatives are their colleagues. So such, I don't consider as influence of discipline. It's abuse of power, and the use of power should be guided by law. And that's what democracy has come to do. So including this judgment, we will be having more of it, because when he was talking, he tells you about, in military, they tell you obey before command. It means you can obey to die and have no room to explain. People, somebody have been told to obey before complain, and you find to guided by this judgment. It means that even in the military, the law is watching, because there's no code in the military that resists or supersede the constitution of this country. So constitution has been put in place as a way of balancing what we call discipline in operation vis-a-vis the rules that guides a human being to choose and live a decent life. So I believe that people should be given their right. Do you know that some military senior officers have also taken advantage of their powers to oppose the right of their junior officers, diverting their function out of the military service to their personal homes. And they are directed to work for their wives, work for their children in a manner that if they review it, you will know that this judgment should be expanded. Those cannot be taken in decent society that believe in the rule of law. So I believe that more of this judgment, more of these cases should be instituted to unveil, because it's not when you intimidate people that they give their best. Discipline cannot be threatened, because that is the principle some of us believe. But I tell you, discipline can be earned. Respect can be earned. You don't impose it. You don't force respect. You attempt to do so. You threaten people to become weak. And when they become weak, you become a threat to the society.
All right. I'm still going to come back to you on the question I asked earlier. But, Comrade Aliyu, what is the bigger lesson now that this ruling teaches us about governance and institutions in Nigeria? Now, before you answer, I understand your view on, before you joined the military, I believe you must have counted the cost, right? But then where I have the problem is, When you realize that you're not going to be able to carry that cost anymore, you should be allowed to leave. But moving on, like I said, what is the bigger lesson now that this ruling teaches us about governance in Nigeria?
Well, what the ruling says, simply put, is that no institution is bigger than the law.
Yeah.
There's no institution in Nigeria that is bigger than the law. That is the simple phrase that will qualify this ruling, that every institution is being governed under the law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is the Constitution of Nigeria. And believe me, the Armed Forces is a very disciplined organization that believes in the constitutionality of the law and upholding the law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. They are the guardians. They guide the law. They protect the law. So I cannot see someone who is guiding and protecting the law now breaking the law. This is the armed forces for you, the disciplined organization, the respectful organization that respects constituted authority and respects the law. But like I said, the judgment, simply put, means no institution in Nigeria that is above the Nigerian law. And you will be shocked to your Bombaro to see that the military will comply with the law, not because the military will always want to express itself that it has this civil-military relationship. In all the services, the tri-service and even the defense headquarters, you have the civil-military department that has been established as I speak to you, most especially under the present leadership of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Gwabi Musa, who has established the civil-military relation department in the defense headquarters, and it has gone down to all the tri-service, Army, Air Force, and Navy, the civil-military relation department. And the essence of that is for the military and the civilians to cohabit, to understand themselves, for the military to make the civilians understand that we are not Dakunians. We are human beings. We are Nigerians like you. All you do is try to understand us. We should also understand you. And we are saying that we are not what you think we are No, we are equally civil and operate within the civil authority, and in fact, respect and protect the civil authority and the civilians of the nation. You see, the military itself is being modernized under the present leadership under the leadership of this crop of service chiefs and the chief of defense staff. The military is being modernized, and of course, that was why the president brought in two civilians, not only civilians but former executives. One is a former governor of Jigawa State, Badar Abubakar. The other one is a former governor of Zamfara State, Dr. Bello Matawali. You see, they are civilians heading the defense architecture of Nigeria as ministers of defense. What is the essence? Is to bring that civil-military relation so that the military will understand they are subordinate to the civilians. They are the protectors of the civilians, and it is civilians that is controlling the armed forces of today, because these are the ministers and they are custodians. They have the executive powers as extended to them by the president, and they are giving instructions to the service chiefs, and the service chiefs are complying with the instructions. So the judgment has been passed. Of course, the armed forces is a law-abiding organization, and
Yes,
I can tell you that they will comply.
All right. Just before we go, I want to hear from the barrister Justice now. Finally, you have just 5 seconds, right? What safeguards, sir? What safeguards do you think should be put in place?
The truth is that...
Barrister, sir. What safeguards do you think? Hold on.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm coming with my question. What safeguards do you think should be put in place to balance officers' freedom with national security needs? 5 seconds, please.
Well, the truth is this: freedom of officers. They are, first of all, like I said, they are citizens of Nigeria, so they should not see themselves as different from Nigerians, because the law protects every Nigerian citizen, and that same law protects them. Because just like my comrades say, one day they will leave office and be like us. There are no two ways about it. So this judgment now, I assure you that it's going to be a catalyst to other things that will happen. There's going to be more litigation. There are no two ways about it. And if you remember, that is why whenever the military comes they suspend the constitution and operate with it to obey the constitution of the country. But they don't have a choice. This is democracy, where the rule of law is the order of the day. So they must obey the judgment, whether they like it or not.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me tonight on this conversation. It's been quite insightful, and I hope to do this again with you guys. Thank you so much. There we have it. Tonight, we've seen that a court ruling is more than just a legal technicality. It's a reminder that even in uniform, the Nigerian soldier is first a citizen with rights enshrined by the Constitution. But it also raised tough questions, or, questions like how does the military preserve discipline if every officer can simply walk away? Somewhere between freedom and duty lies the balance that we must find. Because in the end, true service to the nation cannot be forced. It must be chosen. And that choice is what gives you value. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And before I go, do ensure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and most importantly, follow us on all our social media engagements. And remember to like, share, comment, invite your friends and family to watch us and follow us. And if you missed our quote, here it is. Compulsory service without the option of resignation amounts to modern-day slavery under the guise of national service. And this was said by Justice Emmanuel Subilim. I'll see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.